More than $1 trillion deficit with China. It's not even believable.
Our trade deficit with China is $300 billion. What is he talking about?
We have a very big deficit with Canada, and there's no reason.
She's actually pushing back here, which I'm surprised about.
And you say 60, and I say 200, but it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
I love Canada. I love Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the Liberal guys.
I love his wife.
The Liberal Party is going to win now in the next election, most likely. And they were down.
Oh my God, dude, she's pissed. This is the problem with all you like weird conservatives in the chat today. Every single fact that I look up, I am looking up using Elon Musk's AI.
I think that you will find out that they're paid by people that are very highly political on the left.
Dude, he's fucking JQing right now. He's giving us the George Soros. Let's get this going. I saw something like this on, I saw like a couple clips on Twitter of this, and I just want to watch the whole thing. This is insane. Like, seeing what Donald Trump is saying about Canada is just wild. So I'm interested. You know, we still do our slop, but I also want to do some politics. I'm interested in this, and some of you guys are too. So suck a fart if you're not. That's it. Let's just watch this interview. Way he talks about Canada, and he gets pretty significant pushback from Laura Ingraham, which I'm surprised about.
A few hours ago, I sat down with President Trump in the diplomatic room at the White House. We talked Doge, China, illegal immigration. He even told us what he sees for Barron's future.
Wow.
But we start tonight with the big news, his conversation with Vladimir Putin.
Big news, guys. Let's see what we got.
Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We got to
They gotta get more comfortable chairs, to be honest with you.
readout of your call with Vladimir Putin, and it was a fairly optimistic take. Vladimir Putin agreed to a ceasefire immediately on energy and infrastructure,
right,
but not to a 30-day ceasefire. Tell us what happened.
Well, you have a situation where you have a lot of guns pointing at each other foolishly because it would.
Well, let's be clear. I think it begs reminding that the reason that there are guns pointed at each other is because Russia is the aggressor onto another country that has their own autonomy, okay, onto Ukraine. So it just needs to be understood who the aggressor is.
Would have never happened if I were president. That was not a war that was supposed to happen.
It happened under your president. Like, it was going on. It started in 2014. Like, okay.
And it did happen. So that's where we are. And right now,
it's so annoying because he just every time he talks, it's always like, it would have been better under me, but it wouldn't have. And it's also just stop deflecting.
Now, you have a lot of guns pointing at each other, and a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They're nicely encircled, and that's not good. And
I mean, not for nothing, but I would say Russia's doing horribly. I mean, this conflict's been going on since 2014, and Russia hasn't won. Russia is one of the top 3 superpowers. The fact that Russia can't beat Ukraine, some small little Eastern European country, is kind of pathetic. I find it interesting how much everybody talks about how, like, or not everybody, it's mostly conservative, about how amazing Russia is and they're so strong and Ukraine will never win. Every day that Russia doesn't win is Ukraine winning. They shouldn't be able to hold their own. But I think we have to start understanding that Russia is not very powerful. Russia is a weak country. It is just very cold, and so nobody wants to go there. So let's stop with the propaganda. Russia's a weak country. Okay, just because you see Putin photoshopped onto a bear and that makes your nipples hard because you're a closeted homosexual doesn't mean that they're a strong country. Some people need to kind of keep that in mind. They're weak. The country, the people are fine. The country is pathetic. And so, like, Ukraine is winning, and we should continue to support them. Because if we don't continue to support Ukraine, that's going to make Russia feel powerful. And if they start trying to push through Eastern Europe and they actually become more and more successful, that will be what starts World War III, not us continuing to support them. They're doing us a favor by us just giving them the equivalent of a $20 a month subscription to basically die for their own country that keeps the war away from us.
We want to get it over with. Look, we're doing this. There are no Americans involved. There could be if you end up in World War III over this. Which
is what you would create.
Which is so ridiculous, but, you know, strange things happen. And I think we had a great quote.
Would it be funny if World War III happened under his presidency, though? And he's like, it was Biden's fault. Everything's Biden's fault.
Lasted almost 2 hours. talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
Was there non-negotiable?
I think I just saw like Zelensky talk about how they're not going to adhere to the ceasefire because Russia refused to actually engage properly.
Negotiables mentioned by Putin. It was reported that I think the Kremlin media actually stated that he demanded an immediate cessation of aid to Ukraine in order to get to this multi-step deal.
No,
that's insane.
Oh, he didn't. We didn't talk about aid. Actually, we didn't talk about.
Sorry. Russian media said that they did.
An immediate cessation. I think the Kremlin media actually stated that.
So, like the Russian government media.
He demanded an immediate cessation of aid to Ukraine in order to get to this multi-step deal.
No,
Okay.
he didn't. We didn't talk about aid. Actually, we didn't talk about aid at all.
What? Why downplay that?
We talked about a lot of things, but aid was never discussed.
In the readout, it also stated that both sides want to.
I'm so sorry. What? I'm trying to understand if this was in the call because I feel like there's no way that they didn't talk about that inside of the conversation. What?
Both sides want to get to an improved bilateral relationship, the United States and Russia.
That's true.
No, thank you.
How can we trust that Vladimir Putin actually wants that, in that he's not also being influenced at the same time by his close friend, President Xi of China?
Well, look, we have our own discussions with President Xi of China, and he wants to get along also, and he's looking to get along, and we're looking to get along with him, and we will. We have a problem of trade where we have a very big imbalance with China. With Russia, we don't have.
Again, Trump renegotiated like trade with China in his first presidency. I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, why do you keep saying that we got such bad deals, but you're the one making the deals? I don't understand. Same thing with Canada and Mexico.
That much trade, and they'd like to, and we'd like to also. They have some very valuable things for us, including very big forms of rare earth. They have a lot of earth. You know, they have a big chunk of real estate, the biggest, actually the biggest in the world for a country by far. And on that, they have.
Why is he so obsessed with rare earth? I wonder if the reason he's so obsessed with rare earth is because he knows technology is very important, and like you use rare earth to, my understanding is to make like microchips and shit. I don't understand what this obsession with rare earth is. He's having like a shit fit about Ukrainian rare earth and now China rare earth. What is his obsession with rare earth?
Have things that we could use, frankly, and that other people could use. I think that President Xi would like to get along, and I think Russia wants to get along with the United States. I also think we're a much different country than we were just a few months ago.
Yeah, we were actually a sane country a few months ago.
A country that's now respected. We were not respected. We were being laughed at.
My man, how do you even say that we're being respected? You've started trade wars with every one of our allies. Who's respecting us? Like, he just says words, and it's weird that people will believe him. We're not respected. These people despise us across the world. Our own allies, our closest allies, Canada. What is he talking about? He's just saying things.
We had incompetent leadership. This was a war, as an example, that would have never happened if I were president.
Bro, it happened during your presidency.
Part of your desire to forge this new relationship with Russia also impacted by Russia's closer relationship since you left office in 2021 with China, because I think you talked about before the desire to box out China from that part of the world and have a closer relationship with Russia.
So as a student of history, which I am, and I've watched it all, the first thing you learn is you don't want Russia and China to get together. With that being said, no, it's not a big part of it, but maybe that'll happen or maybe it won't. Obama really forced them together through energy and bad energy policies. And what he did, so many different things. He forced a marriage which would never have taken place. It was not a natural. And for one reason, Russia has tremendous land, a lot of land, and China doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of dead, useless land.
Doesn't have enough land. Russia has a much smaller population than China. And it's sort of it was always a natural enemy situation. They're probably friendly now, but we're going to be friendly with both. I think we're going to be friendly with both. China needs us in terms of trade very badly. And
I mean, everybody needs everybody in terms of trade. I understand that. That's one of the things that's so good about trading is that it generally will keep tensions down. But he's trying to create, what's so weird is that Trump is trying to turn us into an isolationist country. And so when you're like, yeah, China needs us for trade and Russia needs us for trade, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but you're trying to isolate us and make us completely dependent of each other on ourselves, which will be more expensive for the country, which will hurt us, but it'll also remove us from that pool and that ability to engage in basically threatening other countries to dial it back if they start engaging in more conflict.
But we have to straighten out the deficit. We have now more than $1 trillion deficit with China. It's not even believable.
With China? Wait, what? Our trade deficit with China is $300 billion. What is he talking about? Like, I don't understand. Why lie about this? Why say we have $1 trillion trade deficit with China when it's like $300 billion? I don't understand. He's just such a weird liar. So I'm just looking into like why we have a trade deficit, and there are multiple reasons which make perfect sense. I mean, one of the biggest reasons is because it's cheap to make shit in China. So we're going to buy more of their stuff than they're going to buy of our stuff. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good thing that we have a deficit with China, but it's not because of any magical trade deal we can make. It's just kind of how the system works. China will literally throw their people at building things. They don't have a particularly high value for their own people or for human life. And so they make things a lot cheaper, and we take advantage of that. So we're basically either making things in other countries like China because the labor is so cheap, or we're automating it back at home. It's interesting. And another reason is because we've shifted our economy apparently to a service economy, which is we're providing services, things like software, entertainment, healthcare, banking, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not really producing as many things anymore. We're mostly outsourcing those other countries. We're mostly producing like services. That's a higher, we've shifted our economy. So of course we're going to get more from China than they get from us from like buying things. Now that doesn't mean we're not getting a good deal, but he just says, hey, there's the existence of a trade deficit. He lies about it being $1 trillion because he's constant lies. I don't get it. When it's $300 billion. But with all these different factors, it makes sense as to why we have a deficit with them. It's just kind of like supply and demand.
And we're going to be doing something about that. And with Russia, they would like to have some of our economic power.
And we're going to give that to them?
The criticism that you've heard since really 2015 is that you have more in common with Vladimir Putin than you do with globalist leaders, maybe some NATO leaders.
Yeah, which is really strange. I mean, the reason is because if you look into Donald Trump, he has a lot of business. Like, the Russian government has been heavily investing into him since way before he was president. He has a lot of like disproportionately high business dealings with like the Russian government, buying into like his real estate and et cetera, keeping him really afloat, which is insane. And then they did get him elected, just to be clear. They get elected in 2016. People be like, oh, Russian hoax is fake. There were like more of 30 indictments of the Trump team. So like during the Mueller report. So like Russia wanted Trump elected. They got him. They were friends for a long time. They got him elected. People around him lied about it. He definitely, I don't know if he colluded with Russia, but Russia definitely wanted him as president. And it's because he's weak, because Trump is weak on Russia. Trump is willing to call Zelensky a dictator, even though he's not. He's not willing to tell you that Russia was the aggressor against Ukraine, even though they are. Trump is weak. He's pathetic when it comes to Russia. I mean, that's why he gets the criticism.
And in this case, with Zelensky, you're both nationalists. Zelensky's more of a globalist. How do you respond?
Like a national? What is a nationalist? I mean, are you trying? Okay, I don't know. A little dog whistling on that one.
On to that criticism.
Well, I am a nationalist, but I'm a nationalist for the United States, not for anybody else.
Okay.
And it's interesting because there's nobody been tougher on Russia than me. I'm the one that pointed out Nord Stream 2, and I stopped it. Nord Stream is the biggest pipeline.
I think people need to realize that under Trump, we have some of the weakest. We have some of the weakest cybersecurity that we've ever had. Donald Trump sucks up to Russia constantly. He said he'll push disinformation for Russia, and then he's also been weakening our cybersecurity. So we're more exposed to Russia cybersecurity attacks. Yeah, so he's cut significant funding to different cybersecurity agencies in the United States, which leaves us more exposed to Russia. Yeah, so Donald Trump cut considerable funding and like actual force workforce for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which, to my understanding, is a collective of different agencies that the United States basically will kind of oversee. They're private entities, my understanding. They'll oversee, and Trump cut a significant amount of that, which makes absolutely no sense. Wars are obviously fought on the ground, but the wars are fought online now. And so he cut a significant amount of our cybersecurity protections to, I guess, save money, right? Like we cut funding for children and their, children's food and cancer research because to save money. We're cutting cybersecurity to save money. We're cutting so many things to save money while we're destroying our own country. These are how wars are fought, and we're cutting it. Why would we do that? Why would we cut cybersecurity, which directly makes us weaker against Russia? I don't know, unless you were a Russian agent. I guess I have no idea.
I guess in the world, taking care of all of Europe. And it was being built for before I got there. And they were on the way. It was going to be, and I stopped it. It was just stone cold dead. I stopped it in its tracks. Whoa. That's not somebody that's being particularly nice. It was the biggest project they ever had.
He's so weak on Russia. It's insane.
And it stopped. When Biden got in, he immediately approved it. Like immediately. One of the first things he did in office was he approved Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I was president. I said, what are you doing? You mean you're building a pipeline to Germany and various places in Europe?
So we're talking about some kind of an energy pipeline that's probably going to help Europe in some capacity and increase relations with Russia, I guess trade relations. So it's a pipeline that runs under the Baltic Sea from Germany to Russia, designed to deliver Russian gas directly to Western Europe. Okay, so the idea was basically so that like it's a trade relation thing, which is not necessarily a negative thing to have trade relations with Russia because it again should dial down some of the intensity. So he shut down this natural gas pipeline, and he thinks that that's tough on Russia. But then you'll cut cybersecurity protection so that you can let Russia have an influence on our elections. It doesn't make any sense. He's so weak.
You're paying them billions of dollars a month, and then we're paying a lot of money to fight them. This is not going to work out well. And it stopped, and then Biden approved it, which was a really stupid thing to do. But
why is it a stupid thing to do? This doesn't make any sense. Why is it stupid to allow Russia and Western Europe to be able to have trade relations that would lower the potential for some kind of issues going on? No?
He did it. And Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as my enemy. He said that very strongly. But with all of that, I had a very good relationship with Putin. I had a very good relationship with President Xi, a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Lots of good relationships.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing.
It can be a positive thing to have a good relationship with China and Russia. But when you're sitting here pushing Russian disinformation, that kind of becomes null and void. It'd be one thing if they're like, yeah, let's have good relations with you. We can do trade, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. Another thing is like, oh, hey, be really weak on Ukraine. And then Trump's like, yes, master. And he just starts guzzling cum.
But at the same time, I'm about our country. So that's why we're talking about tariffs. We'll be taking in trillions of dollars.
I want to get to the tariffs in a minute because we're going to.
How would we bring in trillions of dollars? That's just fucking preposterous.
We're going to first hit the other big news of the day, which was the Chief Justice of the Supreme.
That makes absolutely no sense, dude. We'll bring almost no money for tariffs into our country. This is so silly. Like tariffs, the reason that you do tariffs onto goods is so that you can price them out. That's what you do. So you're like, oh, people will buy other American products instead, but the tariffs aren't going to generate trillions of dollars. He's so stupid.
Supreme Court issued a rare statement about your suggestion on Truth that you posted earlier today that Judge James Boasberg should be impeached after he ordered those deportation flights to El Salvador halted, essentially turned around.
Why? If that's what the law says, then that's what the law says.
The Chief Justice said it was more than two centuries. We understood that essentially impeachment was for very rare circumstances and not an appropriate response to rulings you disagree with. What's your reaction to the courts stepping in to make a statement here? They didn't make a statement when Joe Biden decided to forgive all those student loans.
Well, he didn't mention my name in the statement. I just saw it quickly.
Okay, so from my So this is such a pussy interview. So Trump tried to do something. The court said you can't do that. So Trump says that the person should be impeached. Biden tries to do something. The court said, no, you can't do that. Biden doesn't say that those people should be impeached. There you go. Because the courts blocked Biden's ability to do multiple aspects. I think most aspects of student loan forgiveness. Maybe there's your difference, you fucking moron.
He didn't mention my name, but many people have called for his impeachment, the impeachment of this judge. I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama.
He's radical left.
Appointed.
Whoa, no, it was Obama appointed. Our moderate left-leaning president. Radical left, dude. Pretty cool.
And he actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders.
But that's not who these people are. My understanding is that they're just rounding up suspected gang members and they're just deporting them. That's not if they're confirmed gang leaders or gang members, yeah, get them out of here. But you can't just deport people that you don't even know. I saw that like some fucking actress was getting deported because for some random fucking actress from like an American Pie movie because they were just deporting everybody. What is he talking about? He's just lying. Every single time he talks, I feel bad for people who still believe this lunatic. You have a mental disorder, and it's called being uneducated.
That we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination.
Apparently it is, because he's able to stop your shit.
And I thought it was terrible. In fact, he said when they were well on their way, there was an order issued, as I understand it, to bring them back or to not let them go or something.
Okay.
And this is not something that the country would stand for. These people, they were let in here by an incompetent president who had open borders, and anybody throughout the world could come in. And we were given murderers. We were given people from mental institutions and prisons.
He just keeps saying these things. These are lies. I'm sure that some of these people are that, but not most of them.
Essentially saying, excuse me, Mr. President.
This is ridiculous. Like, I'm reading into this. None of these people were publicly confirmed or even identified with gang ties. There aren't any details about them being tied to gangs. How are we? He's just saying they're horrible people. We don't know. Maybe they are, but you have no proof. Why are we letting the president act with impunity? When he has no proof, he's just doing things because his base goes, that's nice. But that's not nice because you haven't even confirmed that these people are gang leaders or gang members at any capacity. They have been 0% transparency.
There still is a process in place. You can read between the lines. It hasn't been a full ruling yet. And I know the Justice Department is appealing this on a couple of different grounds, but this is leading people to wonder whether there are court orders that you will defy because you believe that the judge has no jurisdiction or they're political questions and not justiciable at all. And what would you say to that? Are there circumstances where you would defy a court order?
Well, I think that, number one, nobody's been through more courts than I have. I think nobody knows the courts any better than I have. I would say the chief judge does, but nobody knows them better than I have. And what they've done to me, I've had the worst judges. I've had crooked judges.
This guy stacked the Supreme Court. What is he talking about? Crooked judges.
I have judges that valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million because that benefited his case, because he wanted to see me convicted of something.
No. So basically, just to be absolutely clear, Trump was playing a game where he would overvalue his properties to get better loans, and then he would undervalue them like his taxes. He's just fucking lying here. Also, this guy's talking about how he's had terrible judges. He caused an insurrection, and then the Supreme Court said they would protect him, even though he's fucking guilty. What does he mean?
I have judges that had relatives making millions and millions of dollars on the election, ruling on the election.
But going forward,
I had judges that were so...
Damn, she's even getting irritated with him. Oh my God, Fox News is starting to get irritated with Trump. This is insane. This is funny.
corrupt.
We all know that was outrageous.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future.
No, you can't do that.
He just admitted to defying a court order. What are you talking about?
However, we have bad judges. We have very bad.
I would never defy a court order, but we have bad judges, which means that he will continuously defy court orders as long as they don't agree with him. That's what he's saying here. Like every single day, we're reminded more and more of how Trump is more and more fascist leaning. He will bar certain media organizations out of the White House He'll sit here and he'll defy court orders. He'll insurrect the government when he doesn't get his way. He's constantly overreaching. What are you talking about? This guy is fucking insane.
Judges, and these are judges that shouldn't be allowed. I think at a certain point you have to start looking at what do you do when you have a rogue judge. The judge that we're talking about.
You got to use a warrior. You know what I'm saying? Overpower him.
You look at his other rulings. I mean, rulings unrelated, but having to do with me.
This guy doesn't like system. He doesn't like the system of checks and balances.
He's a lunatic.
He wants details of when flights departed and trying to, I guess.
Yeah, because you guys gave zero evidence that these people were gang affiliated.
They seem to be trying to lay the predicate for your administration having defied a court order.
Because he did.
Now, you all have said you haven't given specific times, and you filed a motion in court, your Justice Department, to prevent any more information getting out about specific times of flights. So that seems to be where this is going. Do you have faith that the Supreme Court ultimately will rule in your favor in this case?
I do, because the job of getting people out of our country that are murderers, that are absolutely the worst people, the drug lords, are causing such.
Bro, you didn't give any. You won't even release the names of the people you deported. What are you talking about?
Problems in this country. You know, drug lords came in, the biggest of them.
There's no evidence. Why don't you just give people evidence if you're so sure of yourself?
They left other countries to come in here. They came through an open border. They're making millions of dollars.
It wasn't an open border. They took advantage of the asylum seeking process, and Trump got a bill rejected that would have helped that under the Biden administration. So he doesn't care about any of this.
Destroying people's lives, killing people. And that's a presidential thing.
More people are dying because of these tariffs that are making things more expensive than fucking, I don't know, whatever the fuck he's talking about.
We're supposed to be getting them out or getting them brought to justice. We had a judge, I would call him a rogue judge. You can call him whatever you want. I know nothing about him. I heard about this very late in the process, and I said, that's a strange order. You have local judges, local federal judges, local judges, period, and DAs and
yeah, this is their job. The law.
Prosecutors, DAs, state attorney generals that want to really take over. I think some of it's for the publicity. They love the publicity. All of a sudden, they're on the front page of every newspaper, but they have
stop letting him talk. Holy fuck.
No right to be.
He won't shut the fuck up. He hasn't said a factual thing this whole time.
When we come back, President Trump reacts to the latest Doge news.
Wow, what's that they had to retract all of their fucking top, savings so far?
Moving on to Doge, Judge Theodore Chuang is a federal district court judge in Maryland, has ruled against the Trump administration's efforts, Mr. President, to shut down USAID, ordering the government on an accelerated basis to basically reinstate the agency's statutory functions. Your reaction to this development?
Sorry. Good. That U.S. aid helps people not die. It provides different forms of healthcare and medicines, and food to children and research to children. Good that we have that happening. Okay, they just recklessly cut stuff. It's ridiculous. Okay, let's see. What are you talking about? I find this so interesting that somebody in the chat is weirdly pushing back when I say, hey, we should have proof that these people are gang members before they get deported. And he's like, well, what would you do if your daughter got shot by an illegal immigrant? I don't know. What are you talking about? Why are you so fucking stupid? It's just, I don't understand why you people are so fucking dumb, where you hear a lie out of a dumb fucking idiot's mouth and you go, how do I defend this lie? Obviously, it would be pretty bad if somebody died to anybody, whether they were an illegal immigrant or not. But deporting a bunch of people on the basis and foundation that they are supposedly gang members and then not supplying a singular bit of evidence of that should make you go, that's probably not a good thing. Just be like, hey, I'm a really stupid fuck and I'm dumb as shit and I'm a fucking moron. Just say that to me. Just tell me that you're a fucking drooling idiot. It's fucking insane. Holy fuck. Jesus Christ. It's just embarrassing for you to talk ever, every time you open your mouth amongst all your friends and family, they are laughing at you the second that you leave the room. Just keep that in mind. That's your life. Your life is embarrassing. You should always consider the fact that everybody is judging you at all times when you're not around. Just so you know. So keep it good. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Look at the fraud that we've caught.
You haven't caught any fraud. They haven't caught any fraud at all. They fired inspector generals that's job is to stop fraud. They fired the people actually who have evidence and proof that they've saved hundreds of billions of dollars for the taxpayer. And then to institute Doge, which, I'm sorry, what does it do? Oh, it has to constantly, silently retract the top supposed savings that they've given the government. It's fucking insane. He's actually insane. And people like this moron chatter eat it up. They go, yes, Trump is saying a thing. They don't need proof anymore. We live in an age where people do not need actual proof for their claims as long as they like the guy a lot, I guess. It's insane.
We've caught so much fraud, so much waste, so many employees that never showed up to work. And we have a judge from a...
Bro, these people are working from home and they're getting their jobs done. They're working from home and getting their work done.
liberal state.
So who cares?
Who ruled like that. So bad for our country.
So I guess they closed the department. They're going to have to reopen
the department. Well, we'll be appealing it, I guess. Not I guess. I guarantee you. We will be appealing it. We have rogue judges that are destroying our country.
Well, do you believe that at this point, given the totality of these lawsuits, it's a cavalcade of lawsuits, that your administration could be further hampered, your agenda?
Yeah, this is like the goal. This is always the Trump goal. The Trump goal is to come in, not work in a bipartisan way to actually meaningfully get things done, and then to overreach, have judges say, you can't do this because this isn't how our system works. Maybe some of the ideas fundamentally aren't bad ideas, but you have to do it the right way. And then they knock it down. He goes, oh, I'm a victim. The Democrats are evil. You know, Joe Biden was surprisingly able to do a decent amount of across the aisle and get shit done. He got an infrastructure bill passed, bipartisan. He got the CHIPS Act passed, bipartisan. He got a lot passed. Inflation reduction, bipartisan. He was able to do a lot. Now, he might have been brain dead, but like we have somebody who's supposedly not brain dead and he can't work across the aisle for anything. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? He sits here and lies about like everything. He lies about how our trade deficit with China. He lies about all these people being gang members when he won't release any proof or evidence. He's defying federal court orders. This is your guy? This is insane. He's an ineffective fuck. He's an ineffective fucking president. He can't do anything. If you cannot work with both sides of the aisle, you are an ineffective president. That's it. Okay, you don't get to get everything that you want. We have a country of 330 million people with a ton of different representatives. You might want something, and that's great. I might want something, and that's great. But the way that a government works is neither of us are happy with the solution because it's a compromise, and Trump can't handle that. That's it. And so now court orders are knocking down his terrible ideas like Doge, which was horrible. It's not really saving us any money. It's just cutting a bunch of people like veterans. They have to constantly silently retract all the fucking top savings that they've gotten while firing at people who actually have been proven to save us money. Like, what are you talking? It's insane.
It could be slowed down. They're throwing monkey wrenches at you with these judicial rulings.
Well, we have to go through an appellate process. That takes a long time. We have a judge that...
Do you have time?
We have a judge.
That's the point.
We have time. We're going to be making a lot of money because of tariffs. The good news is...
We're not.
We've got it on... We're going to very soon be on an even keel. We're going to be...
I love that he says we. So first of all, the tariffs aren't going to make a tremendous amount of money. But let's say that they did. That goes to the government. So what he's saying here is tariffs are going to make a lot of money because prices are going to get raised. That's why you tariff things, because they're cheaper. So you artificially raise them that are coming from other countries. So you buy American goods. That's nice. But the reality is that we're not making any money. What we're basically doing is we're just paying more money for services and in taxes so that the government can pay off its deficit, if this is true. Oh, okay. But it seems like a weird way to do it. So instead of taxing rich people who are already dodging their taxes to get them to pay off the debt, despite the fact that the wealth inequality is at an all-time insane high, we're going to stress lower and middle-class workers into buying basic goods and necessities to pay off the debt? Does that make any sense to you whatsoever? Because either the tariff is going to generate revenue because you're going to keep buying the good at a higher price, or you're going to go and buy like an American good, and that's nice. but you're still paying more. Jobs aren't really going to be created in any drastic way because we have massive automation in this country, which is why we outsource a lot of these goods to from other countries. Nothing he's saying makes any sense. Nothing. Like, the logic isn't there. And if you people would just think for a second, you'd go like, oh, maybe this wasn't the Republican for us. Maybe a different Republican would have done better. But no, literally, it's a fucking cult.
Be taking in a lot of money, the Trump card, the gold card, whatever they want to call it. So
the Trump card. This is it's selling it, just an idiocy.
Okay with me. Whatever's going to sell better is fine with me.
The gold card. Yeah, you know what? If anybody wants citizenship here, just pay $5 million. Who's going to do that? Criminals. No, we never push out somebody wanting to come here that's rich because they're going to bring their money with them. So this whole $5 million thing, what does that mean? It's never going to generate income. And if it does, it's going to be from people who are criminals.
It'd be nice to get a piece, but I don't get a piece. Okay, I get nothing out of it. All I do is want to make this country successful again. We're taking in tremendous amounts of money. We have car companies that are building here who 6 months ago were going to build in Mexico, massive plants. Okay. They're building them in the United States. We have Honda is going to Indiana. We have them opening.
True. Maybe I don't have the background education to understand a billionaire businessman. That's true, especially one that's had multiple failed businesses.
Up in Michigan. It's amazing what's happening.
But for federal judges.
So just to be clear, Trump has had like 6 of his business entities have had to file for bankruptcy. And this is the guy that you're telling me is a fucking genius. Okay. Yeah, you're right, man. You're right, dude. The guy with 6 bankruptcies is a fucking genius. He's running the country really well. Also, our country, you can't run the country like a business, and people need to get this through their head. Like, you guys have some kind of brain rot, okay? You have to understand something, all right? The government could be more efficient, but you can't just close down the government for 6 months and fix everything and bring it back up. It's not the same thing as a McDonald's that you can shut down for 6 months and be like, oh, let's reopen. We need all of the services that we have, but some of them run inefficiently. You just can't shut it down. And again, I would say that like our government efficiency isn't necessarily the issue when it comes to like money, more than when it comes to its ineffectiveness to actually lower the cost of houses and healthcare, because they're not very interested in that. Because that's where your paycheck's going to. You're paying way too much money for housing and healthcare. And if you had like relief on that and it was more fair, you'd probably have like 20 or 30% more of your paycheck. Because housing is insane. It's an insane amount. But the government's not trying to regulate these big businesses buying up homes and like renting them out for extraordinary amounts of money. We have no interest in doing that. But we do have an interest in like cutting veterans from working and stuff, I guess. It's silly. It's so silly.
District court judges to order a sitting president to reinstate fired employees. You're the chief executive officer of the United States. Yeah. You order that these agencies be reviewed.
Fired employees, many of whom didn't even report to work.
They were working from home and they were getting their jobs done.
Many of whom were scamming this country. Says
who? Show me evidence of that.
And you see the same things. I could read them off, and I did during various speeches. I read off deal after deal after deal, all big.
Is he talking about the transgender mice, which was actually transgenic mice, which we used to test cancer? Incredible.
Scams. And we have a guy that wants to make a name for himself. You know, in many cases, they're just grandstanders. They want to make
Everybody who's against Trump just wants to make a name for themselves. That's fucking insane.
Name for themselves. So we'll appeal it. And hopefully we will meet with reasonable appeals. You know, I've won great cases on appeals.
Yeah, well, some of maybe people weren't fired, maybe they were temporarily put on suspended. So we'll see how this plays out. But he's very unhappy with what happened at USAID.
Well, he shouldn't be. You know what he should do? He should really look at where the money went. They don't ever want to do that. You know, the Democrats always talk about, oh, our Constitution's been violated. The one thing they never talk about is, where did these billions of dollars go?
To other countries. What is he like? To like other countries, to healthcare, to food, for starving people. What is he to cancer research, to healthcare research in general? What is he talking about?
They never want to look, because when you see where the money went and the scams, you don't even have to see anything. Just look at the heading, and
just look at the heading. You need to read what it is.
Scam that they've created. And a judge like him will never look at that. They'll just say, oh, you want to, it sounds so nice. USAID, isn't it beautiful? But it's a whole big scam, Laura. And a judge like that is so bad for our country.
Well,
You like how he didn't give a single example?
it'd be interesting to see whether you're able to shrink the size of this government. Every Republican president has claimed a desire to. Even Obama said we have to find waste, fraud, and abuse, but you're actually doing it, and the judges are trying to stop you.
We're doing.
He's not doing it at all. You're a moron. And people like this are literally the bane of this country. You're a loser. These people suck Trump's dick because they're desperate for a job. That's all it is. That's all they do. Because Trump has so much power that when he wasn't president, he was able to pressure Republicans to knock down a border wall bill that would have helped illegal immigration. Because he wanted to run on it. This is how insanely influential Trump is, and so no conservative will go against Trump because it is the end of their career. That includes Fox News, that includes actual politicians. These people are weak, they're pathetic, they're cowards, and they're more interested in maintaining themselves than actually fighting back against a fucking lunatic baby man-child that is recklessly cutting services for children and for vets so that he can virtue signal and say, hey guys, I've saved money, while he ignores court orders and ignores checks and balances, while he removes certain medias from being able to have access to press briefings. This is the person that we're dealing with. A legitimate threat to democracy. The person who called for people to insurrect the government on January 6th and then pardoned those people afterwards, confirming he wanted that to happen. That's why his vice president isn't running with him anymore, because he refused to go along with the fucking bullshit. This is what we're talking about here, guys. This is where we are. You people are fucking coward losers. They're pathetic. You're fucking pathetic.
By the way, we're doing it at levels never seen before.
Lunatics are setting fire to Teslas all across the country. Another horrible incident happened in Las Vegas last night. The FBI is on the scene investigating, and there's an ongoing investigation being led by Pam Bondi.
It's interesting because somebody said in my comment section on Instagram, they were like, hey, like, are you going to talk about some of the bad things that like liberals do? And the Tesla thing would be a good instance. And I'll tell you, maybe, but I don't care that Teslas are getting attacked as long as people aren't getting hurt. I truly don't care. In 2020, the left was more dangerous, in my opinion. They had more cultural power. They had more control. They were more obnoxious. They were able to have a lot more public sway. And when it came to like canceling people, et cetera, et cetera. But for the last 5 years, conservatives have been the danger to society. Again, Donald Trump called for an insurrection of the government. He then pardoned those people afterwards. This is a legitimate threat to democracy that we're talking about. Elon Musk is throwing out Hail Hitlers while the two of them cut funding for children's cancer research and for different aid services for veterans. And you're going to sit here and be like, oh, why aren't you talking about how Teslas are getting destroyed? Because I don't care. You have people that are on social media talking about how we need a revolution. That's the revolution. If you didn't want your Teslas to get firebombed, you shouldn't be throwing out Nazi signals and cutting child healthcare and child research and child food and aid services and destroying our relationships with every one of our allied countries while calling other allies dictators like Ukraine while sucking Russia's dick. Conservatives 50 years ago would have executed you guys. So I don't care. I don't give a fuck. You guys are child. You guys are childs. You guys are fucking children. I don't give a shit. Okay? We're living like we're going to see more and more extreme measures against the president and people that work with him because they are trying to systematically destroy the country. So, sorry, I don't give a fuck. I'm a child. Sorry, man. I'm sorry that you're too fucking stupid to understand what's happening in this country. So I'm sorry. Like, whether you want to hear this or not, like, if you took the average IQ of Trump supporters and everybody else, or excuse me, MAGA supporters and everybody else, you'd see that you guys are like fucking disability levels of IQ. It's actually unimpressive. Yeah, okay, so this is what I saw. The Trump administration, through a General Services Administration memo, removed a clause from the federal acquisition regulation that explicitly banned segregated families like waiting rooms, restaurants, and drinking fountains for federal contractors. This clause, rooted in executive order signed by Linda B. Yeah, etc. So yeah. So like, yes, do I think it's going to turn into segregation? No, but you know what? You never know. It just seems like it was another, hey, let's cut something that looks like DEI. So now we're going to cut your ability to be separate but equal. Separate but equal, guys, because we know that's so true.
In what you've seen so far, do you consider what's happening an act of domestic political terrorism against one of your allies?
So Elon is a patriot. And again,
No, he's not.
I hardly
Elon's
knew
a cuck.
Elon until the election. And he turned out that he liked me better
I hardly
than
knew Elon until I started watching him fuck my wife.
like these radical lunatics that were in it. Better than Kamala, better than Joe, because he's an intelligent person. He liked, and he backed me, and he went, and he got
He backed me. That's pretty much it. He backed me.
very much involved. He thought, he actually would go around saying, if Trump doesn't win, our country is over.
But do you consider this an act of domestic terrorism?
I think so.
Why?
I think domestic terrorism is insane. What the fuck?
I think that if and when they catch the people, and I hope they do, the good thing is they have a lot of cameras in those places, and they've caught some already having to do with that.
Yeah, just show me the GoFundMe.
I think that you will find out that they're paid by people that are very highly political on the left.
Oh yeah, like what? George? Dude, you hear this? He's JQing right now. Dude, he's fucking JQing right now. He's giving us the George Soros. Dude, Trump is a fucking animal. Holy fuck.
Meanwhile, it's because of Elon Musk. Everything he did with SpaceX, that those astronauts stranded for 9 months, they're finally coming home, Mr. President.
Wait a minute, hold on. So literally the reason why they didn't come home sooner is because NASA had plans to bring them back with a different crew with 2 extra seats. And they're like, hey, just kind of wait out there, because it would have been the, you guys ready? Financially responsible decision. Oh my God. So, but that's political. Apparently, it's so interesting because the reason, they got stranded out there for a while, and that sucks, but there were plans to bring them back financially responsible because it's very expensive. But of course, the waste, fraud, and abuse camp, they got to make sure that we virtue signal as much as possible.
Your reaction to what's unfolding.
So
It's so crazy.
when I came in office, I said, Elon, we got to get them out. You have a rocket
Elon.
ship handy? How many people have a rocket?
Elon, we have to kill children by cutting their food, but these 2 astronauts that are going to be brought home a little bit later on another flight back with empty seats, they got to come back right now. Okay.
And Biden left them up. He abandoned them. We could have done this sooner.
Oh, because they're Republicans and they vote Trump, that they send a mail-in ballot through space?
Biden didn't want to because he was embarrassed by what happened. So they were up there. They were supposed to be there for a few days. They were there for many months.
Oh, no.
And now they're coming back. Wow. But think of it. Elon's able to do that with his genius. And you have people that hate it.
He hasn't built. He doesn't build anything. He buys other people's companies and says he made stuff. What genius? He's a fucking moron.
And I really believe these are people that hate our country. It's a big problem. But there aren't so many of them. There are many more that love our country. And they love our country now more than they have maybe ever in their lives. There's never been a movement like MAGA, like America First. Call it whatever you want to call it.
I call it a cult because that's what it is. It's a fucking cult.
This is the greatest movement in the history of politics.
What's the next stop for the astronauts? Are they going to be coming to the White House?
No, they're going to, number one, have to get better. When you're up there and you have no pull in your mind.
So you're telling me they have no interest in going to the White House? That what we're going to find out is that these astronauts have no interest in going to the White House because they don't give a fuck. Because they're doing their job and they're fine.
So you have no gravity. You can lift 1,000 pounds like this. They have to get better. It's going to be a little bit tough for them. It's not easy. They're up a long time. And when they do, they'll come to the Oval Office.
Wow, I doubt it.
Now more of my interview with President Trump.
Thanks.
They have a $60 billion trade deficit. China has like a $300 billion last year.
Trump said $1 trillion at the beginning of this conversation, and she just I fact-checked him there. Is he going to respond to that?
You said it goes up to when you add it all up, it's $1 trillion.
He's not going to. So he lied. Just to be clear, we fact-checked Trump, but it was 10 minutes apart in here. Laura Ingraham just fact-checked Trump. It was 10 minutes apart. So his audience, they're too fucking stupid to be like, oh, wait a minute. That's not right. Holy shit.
Way over 100, Canada. And here's my problem with Canada.
It's not. She just said it was 60. What are you talking about?
They have a $60 billion trade deficit. China has like a $300 billion last year. You said it goes up to when you add it all up, it's $1 trillion.
Way over 100, Canada. And
it's simply not. She just said it wasn't, and I believe her more than you. Also, I just looked it up, and it's $63.3 billion. What is he talking about? So just to be clear with why there's a trade deficit, why, once again, we consume more from Canada. One is probably because, we're a much bigger country. But they literally exist to fill in the gaps for us. They sell us a lot of different energies so that we don't have to supply it ourselves, so we can focus on other things, like service, being more of a service economy and end-of-the-line goods. They have like a certain timber as well that we don't make in the United States because they have a lot of trees up there. It's literally like the reason why we have a trade deficit with Canada is because they exist as a fucking plug for us. Like, Canada's economy has shifted around what we do not want to make because we have other things of priority to create in the United States. That's it. That's literally it. That's how all these other countries work. We buy so much from China because they create goods cheap and they send them over here. Canada fills in the gaps mostly with different energy. That's it. Because they fill in the gaps for what we don't want to do so that we can focus on being the leader of like technological revolution. It's fucking crazy. But like, hey, there's a trade deficit, so that must mean it's bad. They fill in the gaps. They are our cuck country that will literally shift their economy around what we don't want to create because we have other priorities. And yet, everything bad because number different. It's insane.
Here's my problem with Canada. Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
He's just doing what Russia is doing right now with other countries. Right? We acknowledge that. Russia invading other people's countries, occupying 20% of Ukraine, trying to take that over, trying to absorb that into Russia by brute force. Trump trying to do the same thing with tariffs and being obnoxious. Well, right now, I mean, Canada is considering joining the European Union, which is insane. Why are you trying to bully Canada? They already exist to some extent as a 51st state. They have decent healthcare, better than ours. Just to be clear, everybody was like, no. Some people wait years. No, they don't. Like, they have a priority system. Their healthcare is better than ours. They're a happier country than us. That's why you're miserable all the time. So why would we want to? What is he talking about? He's talking about taking over another country, trying to pressure another country to be absorbed and conquered by America. This is so insane. He's doing the same shit that his fucking gay lover Putin is doing. He's trying to overreach and absorb and take over and infringe upon the autonomy of another country.
Because we subsidize Canada by $200 billion a year.
What?
We don't need their cars.
We trade with them. We buy stuff from them.
We don't need their lumber. We have a lot of lumber. We
don't have the same type of lumber. It's literally better for us to get lumber from them. We can't meet our own demand. They have a significant amount of lumber. They have different types of lumber. It's cheaper to get lumber from Canada because, they border us. I don't understand. I don't understand. He's so stupid. Yeah, you have plenty of lumber in your backyard. True. Sorry, Willow. You're fucking right.
We freed it up, as you know, last week. We're freeing it up so that you can actually cut down a tree without being, given the death penalty. Because what these radical
Yeah, you could actually also insurrect the government and cause treason without getting the death penalty. Isn't that crazy? I wonder how we did that.
Environmentalists have done to our country, but we freed it up. But we don't need their lumber. We don't need their...
Quit saying things. I'm not just saying things. I'm telling you facts, bro. I'm telling you facts. You want to know what I use? You want to? Here's your fucking problem. This is the problem with all you like weird conservatives in the chat today. Every single fact that I look up, I am looking up using fucking Elon Musk's AI. Okay? That's what I'm doing. That's what I do on the side because it's the easiest way to collect information. How do you contend with me looking it up on Elon Musk's this is what's been giving me every fact check. Every single fact check has been here. This is what I've been using, and it's always accurate. So when you're how do you contend with that? How do you contend with me fact checking you when I'm using your kings, the true kings, information gathering system? How do you contend with it? How do you contend with that? Oh, you're not a conservative. I just don't berate the other side because I'm biased. I just need you to understand something. You are conservative. You are conservative, but you're a coward. Okay? You're a coward. I just want to be very clear. You are a coward. This is how non-conservatives engage. Now, I'm going to show you on a notepad. I'm not going to use notepad. We got to use something better because we can't do it. We're going to use paint. This is how I'm not a conservatives act in the United States right now or around the world. Okay, here's the political spectrum, okay? You have your far left and you have your far right. This is obviously the left. This is obviously the right. Here's moderates, okay? Here's the general Democratic Party, moderate left. They don't even believe in universal health care right now. One of them does. Bernie Sanders, the most radical left-leaning person in our fucking country, believes in universal health care, which is already in every single other country. He's literally a moderate. Here's Trump. This is MAGA. This is where MAGA... Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Defying court orders, insurrecting the government, using an outside agency, which has been told they can't do what they're doing by court order, specifically when it comes to cutting USAID, to cut down services with zero facts or information, having to quietly retract most of the things that they do, constantly overstepping, deporting a bunch of immigrants that they won't even release the names of, claiming that they're migrants. Okay? Somebody who blocks certain media outlets from going into press briefings because they won't say Gulf of America or just because they want to. These are active things that he has done. This is where Trump is. He's pretty far right, cuddling up to Russia, who genocides Ukrainians and denies their country their autonomy. And here's you in the middle of the two of those things. That's who you are. So when you say, oh, I'm in the middle, I'm not showing bias, because you're a right-wing fucking coward, loser, fucking moron. That's who you guys are. That's all you guys are. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You people nowadays, if you were a moderate centrist, you would be aligning more with Democrats. That's just the fact of the matter. So people are like, I just sit in the middle. Yeah, I think gay people are all right, but yeah, it's probably fine that they can't get married. That's what you're doing to us right now. That's what you're doing. This is who you are. You're a fucking sheep. You're a sheep. You don't know what you're doing. You are so afraid of a loser, low IQ, lunatic, cock-sucking MAGA cultists that you will sit here and you will protect yourself by sitting in the middle because you're a fucking coward. And I'm so sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to tell you, you're a fucking coward. You're just a coward. I'm tired of cowards. The only thing worse than fucking literal MAGA brainwashed cultists are fucking centrist cowards. Because you're not moderates or in the middle. You are in the middle of these two parties, the right, like the conservative party right now being the extreme one. That's what it is. I'm sorry. That's what you're doing. If you were an unbiased person, you wouldn't support Trump and you'd understand that most of the shit that they're doing is dumb as dog shit. Sorry, that's who you are. That's what you decided to be. You want to be a coward? Be my guest. That's what you want to do. I'm not going to live like a fucking coward. So,
energy, we don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles. They make a lot of millions of automobiles are sent in. I'd rather have them made in Michigan. I'd rather have them made in South Carolina or any one of our...
You're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because...
Wow, a little bit of pushback. Again, we're doing a good job. Kind of. She's still a coward, but a little bit of a good job.
Because it's meant to be our 51st state.
Okay, but...
but listen to this for a second.
We need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going to let them get close to China.
Look,
right?
That's true. Why would we want them to... Like, what if China decided to swoop in and be like, hey, you guys want to be friends? Why wouldn't they take the deal?
With every country, indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that... Now, this was...
Canada? Bro, I don't think you're ever going to convince anybody that the nastiest countries to deal with are Canada. The nastiest, where the stereotype is they're too nice and they roll over for shit. I just want to be clear about the type of country that Canada is and how much of a cuck rollover country they are. You guys need to understand this because this is like something real, okay? Donald Trump decided magically when he got into office that our trade deal with Canada and Mexico, but we're going to focus on Canada, was terrible, it was bad, and a fucking moron that made it. Then he remembered he was the moron who negotiated it, and it wasn't really a bad trade deal. It's probably one of the better things he did in his first presidency, but he wants to destroy that, so good for him. Once he realizes that, though, he has to go, fentanyl, there's so much coming into the border. Now, 1% is coming in from the northern border. They still invested over $1 billion to do whatever Trump wanted to protect the borders in a way that really didn't do very much more, but they did it because Trump said so. Because, again, Canada's full of cucks, and you're going to sit here and tell us that Canada is the hardest country to deal with. Why? Because there's a trade deficit with Canada, the country that exists to just make things that we don't want to focus on so we could shift into a service economy and lead the world in technological revolution. Are you fucking kidding me? How do you sit here and contend with that as a fucking MAGA cultist? How do you go, yeah, Canada's so scary? What? They're not hard to deal with. They're not. They're cucks. They'll do anything that we say within reason, but we've managed to go beyond within reason. It's insane. It's just fucking insane.
Trudeau.
Holy
the people
fuck.
that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau.
Wow, good old Justin.
His people were nasty, and they weren't telling the truth. They never told the truth. You know that, they'd say, well, we don't charge. Well, they do. They charge tremendous. They charge tremendous.
I'm sorry for upsetting you guys in the chat, okay? I'm sorry for upsetting you. Canadians in the chat, all right? I'm sorry. I love you guys. You're our closest ally. I personally love you, okay? If I was president, I would not roll over you. I love you.
Tremendous. And if you look at dairy products, what they've done to our farmers, I'd go up to Iowa, I'd go up to different places, Nebraska, and they would always complain about Canada, how they get ripped off. Do you know that Canada has a 250% tariff?
They don't. Just so you guys know how Canada's tariffs work, just as you're aware. Oh my God, this is so stupid. Basically, there is a certain quota that America can sell to Canada for no tariff. Once that quota is hit, very steep tariffs come into play to protect our farmers. The farming market is a very interesting market because it's not one that can do that and shift on a dime. It is a slow market. They have to build like every year. They can't just change. They can't go, shit, no one's buying our McDouble. Let's add another layer. A McTriple. They can't do that. It takes them a long time to create and then yield. So every country has heavy subsidies, like we do it too, on farmers. Like a lot of times we pay them to just exist and maybe even not do anything because you can't shift on a dime. You need to do that. And our country is very dependent on eating. I don't know if you guys know that. We need to eat. I certainly do. So you have to be very, very, very careful about the way that your farmers in your country are treated. Canada's no different. They want to make sure they treat their farmers well. So they have a quota. Once we hit a certain amount of sales, they're going to hit a tariff because they need to protect their farmers. The governments need to subsidize their farmers because it's a slow industry and they need to make sure that we don't die and we don't starve. This is just how things work. And so for them to put a tariff on their dairy market to protect their farmers makes perfect sense. They want to make sure that if there is a crisis that they can react to that crisis and deal with it. It's just being an intelligent country. I don't know. This guy looks at like some kind of a tariff or a deficit and goes, oh, this is so bad. It's not necessarily bad if you understand the reason why something is being implemented.
250, nobody knows that. They charge us numbers that are crazy.
But
we have a very big deficit with Canada.
We don't.
And there's no reason.
She's actually pushing back here, which I'm surprised about.
Much more. We have much more.
He's just lying.
I don't think so.
He's lying to Fox News. Fox News is fact-checking him. We've gone into a new dimension where Fox News is so worried about Trump that they're still giving him the kids' gloves, but they're still fact-checking him in real time. That's how much this should be your indicator of how much of a threat that Donald Trump is to the country. When Laura Ingraham on Fox News is consistently pushing back against Trump because he's pushing misinformation. She's so big that should be ringing alarms in your fucking brain. This is insane. She's not falling into line.
So you understand, we subsidize Canada, and I like Canada. I love Canada. I love
But
Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the Liberal guy,
I love his wife.
The Liberal
I love
Party is going to
everything.
win now in the next election,
I don't
most
care.
likely. And they were
I don't care.
down
Oh my God, dude, she's fucking pissed.
tonight.
I don't
Isn't that
care.
going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd
open
rather
the
deal
door
with a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said,
Bro, this is actually insane. I'm shocked at how much pushback is happening right now. Do I think she'll get punished for this? I don't know. I wouldn't doubt that like Fox News this is the problem because we're seeing Laura Ingraham push back like pretty heavy, more heavy than I would have ever expected her to push back against Trump. The Conservative Party has marching orders in a way that the Democratic Party does not right now have marching orders. Maybe in 2020 there were marching orders, everything was fucking crazy, but right now like we are engaging in a time where again Donald Trump was able to get a conservative presented bill, a Republican-led bill under Biden to get shot down so that Donald Trump could run on the border. There was a border bill, that Republicans presented. They were ready to go, And Trump told them not to do it because he wanted to run on the border, because it would have helped the border and it would have made him harder to win the election. Okay, Trump has an insane amount of power. The politicians fall into line and the media organizations fall into line. They are more concrete in their ability. I understand that there's liberals, but they're much more diverse. Liberals are much more diverse, but there's really just one type of Republican. Very little difference in opinions in any meaningful capacity. Meanwhile, you have some progressives that are like, we need universal health care. No, we don't. We need to do this. The fact that Fox News is pushing back suggests to me that it's not just Laura Ingraham. It's that the people behind the scenes are like, this guy's a fucking lunatic, but we have to guzzle his cum or else we will lose ratings. Because again, understand that Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News because he was so afraid of losing ratings. He was lying about the Dominion voter fraud, right? This is how these people think. They just push the disinformation that comes out of Trump's mouth. This is what they do. But they're so scared that they're still giving a little bit of pushback. So behind the scenes, you know that they're talking about how much of a dumb fucking moron Donald Trump is.
Said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't
You think it's going to be easier to do a liberal? You literally won't even work with other people on the other aisle. What?
matter to me at all.
So your end game is what with them?
My end game is I don't want to have a big deficit. I don't want to see the United States of America, and you say 60 and I say 200, but it doesn't matter.
It does matter. Those numbers matter. You can't just lie and be like, you say 60, I say it's the billion, trillion, million, gajillion. It's like, whoa. Like, facts just don't matter. He's just lying. Facts don't matter anymore.
I don't want us to pay 60 or 200 billion dollars to a country that if they were a state, think of this, it would be our biggest, most beautiful, it would be great.
Don't say it.
This state, it would be cherished. We'd take care of it. The people would pay half what they're paying right now.
What? Doesn't make sense.
Canada pays very little for defense. They think we're going to defend
We protect them.
What?
We protect them.
We protect them.
Okay.
We protect them. Do you know in NATO they pay
Okay.
less than anybody else? In everything else, they go, we're in the process of buying 48 icebreakers.
So if they're not paying as much, why wouldn't we just pressure them to pay more? Like, why wouldn't we say like, hey, they're not paying the amount of money that they should be paying in their GDP percentage to NATO? Now, Trump hates NATO and wants to dissolve it, so I don't know why he's talking about this. But that would make sense as a criticism. But that's not what's happening here. He's just making things up. He's rolling off reasons why he should be able to try to invade another country. So from what I'm looking into about how Canada is paying less than their GDP that they should be paying, which is reasonable. Now, they have drastically increased the amount of money that they are paying over the past decade. They've gone from $20 billion to $30 billion over the past decade of an increase. So it sounds like they're trying to get there in a long form way, which is fair enough. But there are apparently other aspects. Apparently, Canada contributes significantly to NATO in other ways. Its per capita payments to NATO's common budget are among the highest, and it spends 1.14 billion United States dollars on U.S. defense exports, which is about 1.5 billion Canadian dollars. In 2024, critics argue Canada relies on U.S. defense to offset its lower spending, given the shared North American defense framework. Like NORAD, Canada's government has pledged to reach 2% by 2032, which plans to increase spending. So there you go. They have plans to get there within the next 7 years. So it sounds like they have a 20-year plan to go from a underpaying to where they're supposed to be at. So is it less than it should be? Absolutely. It's a good criticism. But there's already an agreed upon plan to be where they need to be by 2032. Now, if you think that was too weak, that's the arrangement that was made under whatever president. I'm assuming that this was a 20-year thing, so it probably happened 10 years ago. So I think Obama, I guess. So you can cry like a fuck about that if you want, but they're getting to the mark that they need to get through over a 20-year period. You can't just drastically increase, quadruple your spending on something like that. It takes time. They're getting there. They're taking their time. They're balancing their budget. Why not acknowledge that? Why not acknowledge that?
Because all of a sudden I see Canada's involved where they're going to get a piece of them. I say, what are they paying? So I got tired of it. Here's the story. I had one of the most successful economies. I had the most successful economy in the history of our country.
Because he deficit spent. Just to be clear, he inherited a solid, decent economy from Obama, because Obama fixed the economy. We had the Great Recession. It was the worst recession since the Great Depression. Trump just cut taxes for no reason, that were not meaningful, that didn't help in any long form capacity other than to increase our deficit before COVID. Like he's not the pay back the budget or pay back the debt president. He's the one who came in and was like, I want people to like me. I'm going to do reckless tax cuts that really aren't very intelligent, that don't deal with the problem of automation, displacing jobs and driving down wages.
In my first 4 years, we did a great job.
You mean 3 years?
Largest tax cuts ever.
Not good.
Largest everything. We had right to try, where people were able to use drugs. Stupidly, for many years, they weren't able to use, the far-reaching drugs because they weren't approved yet. Somebody's terminally ill, they couldn't do it. With me, they can do it. We did so many things. We rebuilt our military. Canada's in.
Rebuilt our military. He just gave like $50 billion a year for no reason. We didn't even need it. It's so funny because Donald Trump came into office and he keeps doing this. He keeps inflating the military budget so they can buy new things. Do you know what ends up happening when we buy new things? We don't have as much room for the old things, right? So we need to get rid of them. Do you want to know one of the ways we get rid of old things? We send it to Ukraine. Because what else are we going to do? You send it to Ukraine. So we kill two birds with one stone when we support Ukraine. We just get rid of stuff. We're like, yeah, we just gave them like $1 billion. It's like, yeah, it was old tanks that we're not going to use anymore, that we value it at that. But you know what? We're wasting so much money. This is how these things work. But you're like convinced that we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars over there. We haven't. We haven't. We give them old shit, or we do manufacturing in America and we send it over there so it stimulates our economy.
Pay for military. They don't give any. They give us nothing, and they are the worst people to negotiate with of everybody.
You got them with USMCA. You finally got them around the edge on that, though.
I got them there, and USMCA is good, but they cheat.
How do they cheat?
An agreement's good, but they cheat.
How?
And Mexico cheats also.
But China cheated on your 2019.
Can I tell you what?
Phase one, they totally cheated and dropped it with Biden. You had a great deal.
When Biden took over, he didn't push them. I would call up once every 2 weeks saying you're not living up to the agreement, and they'd buy more corn, more this. So the most we ever did was $15 billion with China, the farmers and everything, and manufacturing. Yeah. I had them up to $50 billion, and they were doing it. So
you have to look into this to see if this is true. But like, if that's the case, that's nice. Good. There's something decent. Pressuring China specifically. But you're pressuring our allies who are promising to pay more and more, and they're conceding to all your demands.
Biden get it. Do you think Biden called up President Xi and said, you're screwing us?
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News.
Well, I guess that's it. They decided to cut it off there, but I can't imagine he said anything else of any level of intelligence. So.